Sanbonan, my name is Mudinda Mbewana. Welcome to the Chosen Generation. Today we're going to be talking about the mistakes that we made in our first year of university. How did we deal with them? What were the pressures that we were under? What did our parents have to say about the mistakes that we made? Would like to invite you viewers at home to share your stories with us. The hashtag is TCG on SID. Let us know what your experience was. It's now time for us to get right into the discussion.
Well, not that I think, but I know for a fact is it was just mismanagement of time. You just think, no, I still have time to do this. I still have time to do that, and most of all, taking for granted the opportunity. So like, give me zero. We know that it's a trend. It's just a phrase that is now used to say, give me zero. But it's one of those things that we used to do as students, to say, give me zero. So it was just mismanagement of time and taking advantage of opportunities. I'll do it the next time, all of that. So yeah.
The one mistake I did was get into a relationship my second year. And in my final year, just as I was about to write my final exams, we broke up and it was so huge. Luckily, I didn't fail. But I really would have advised, like if I were to advise my younger self now, I'd say don't rush into any relationship.
There's no doing this again, right? So it's fine, you can do it again next year, but the time is not the same. So given the time, given the opportunity, give it your all. Give it your best shot at that given moment. Because you may never get the same opportunity again. You may get the opportunity, it's not the same one. So always make sure that when you are given the time, given the opportunity, grab it with both hands, embrace whatever that is at your disposal at that point, and give it your best shot. I mean, the world is not friendly to anyone out there. So just look out for yourself.
Join as many societies as possible. I think the only society I joined was swimming and STASM. And I should have joined the choir and all those other things, because that really expands your network and just allows for you to learn new things and a whole lot of other things. You walk out of university being a wholesome person. And I think another thing as well, I should have started my side hustle at university, because then I would have gotten into the habit.
All right, let's get right into the discussion. But before we do that, I think it's appropriate to let the viewers know who we are looking at. Who are these guests who have joined us today? I'm going to start with my introductions. On my far left, we have Sis Londiwe. Thank you so much for helping us with this discussion. On my right, we have Vaughan Perry. Thank you so much for being with us. And last but not least, we have Sis Tulindewel. Thank you so much for assisting us with this question. Yeah, maybe let's start with you, Mom. What mistakes did you make as a first-year student?
Okay. I did not go to university.
Okay.
But the mistake I did was falling pregnant at matric, which impacted my tertiary level. Okay. Because the first year I had to raise this baby whilst my schoolmates were doing their first years at university. So the whole year I was grieving, I was depressed because I was babysitting instead of studying. Had I not fall pregnant at matric, I would be talking your language.
Okay, all right. Sure. Mr. Vaughan, do you have a story to share?
I think personally for me, mistakes I made, and in my first year, was, not even only just physical mistakes, because I think all these mistakes were born off of a situation, which was I failed to see what the purpose of me being there was in the grander scheme. There's a grand purpose of where you need to be in life. And varsity is only step 1 or step 3, and once you understand that this is step 1 or 3 of step 100, 100 steps to come, you approach it in a better light. And I think for me, it was not understanding, the purpose, of this process I'm going to be going through, for the larger plan. Okay. I think that's, one of the biggest mistakes.
Okay, you're not very specific, but it's okay. It's like, you can share your mistakes.
The mistakes are too many. The mistakes are too many, my brother would, if you'd ask my brother, he would tell you about when I was getting shoe size marks. You would call them shoe size. Shoe
okay.
size marks, because
Oh,
that's your 8%.
8%.
Yeah, 8%, 7%. Because I had no idea of what I was there. I was just floating in the wind, I knew of a test because somebody was telling me now. And I was walking to class. What are you guys doing here? No, we are writing. I was floating in the wind. There was no purpose of why I was there. I was there because, well, okay, I'm done with high school, so I need to go do something else now. Well, I guess we'll go there.
Okay.
That's something, yeah.
No, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
It makes sense to me.
It makes sense. Sis Londiwe, what is your story?
I've got multiple stories. Vaughan actually knows them. But the first one, I think with the varsity first year in particular, I didn't do it for me, hey?
Okay.
And my results were just a mess. Like the first time in my life I failed something, I was like, me, I was so smart in high school, what? So I didn't do school for me. I spent 4 years at WITS, not for me, but for my family. And when I came out, I was like, what a waste of my time. This is not what I'm supposed to be doing. This is not my career, And then in third year, I then had money, I moved out of home and I felt like, yeah, I'm that person, I moved out of home and then the next thing, I just misused money. Now I couldn't pay for third year, I couldn't pay for fourth year. So quite a number of mistakes and liking the night's life, having different friends and not so churchy ones. I had quite a number of mistakes.
I think the thing that makes the mistake even worse is that moment when you have to break it to your parents.
Yeah.
Sure.
And tell them what happened since too late. I can just imagine a trick.
You know what?
Yeah.
I was the youngest in class at 17, very intelligent. My friends were about 19, 20. They advised me, you need to write a letter. Remember those days, the phones? I wrote a letter to my grandmother because it was not easy for me to phone my mom. Then my grandmom wrote back to confirm, acknowledge receipt. And then my mom phoned and she said, I am aware and I don't want to wish anyone to have that conversation with their parents. Because there's when your parents send you to school, they've got a dream. Now you are bringing a burden. I wanted to die because I knew committing suicide was a sin. When I looked at those mountains, I just said, why can't I go climb there and roll and let that big stone, that the big stone that will appear when Jesus comes. I thought of that stone. Why can't that stone cover me? Because I could not face my mom. I could not face the community. You see, I'm getting emotional because it was, at 17, what do you do with such a decision? But no one screamed at me. I was just happy when my mom called to say, she is away.
What is it about that thing of telling your parents? I mean, what was your story? What's your story of telling your folks?
My stories. For me, it was so many because every week there was something else. But you know what it was as well. It's when you also go home. Because it's not everything that they're gonna be aware of at home.
Okay.
It's when you go home and they ask you about the progress. But already at university now, they've told the neighbors, they've told the extended family. Now, but that hey, where I am there, it's shoe sizes one way. So that is the fear. And and I think also, sometimes, and I think you look and you see a lot of studies, going into the mental health of kids in college and varsities, and the suicide rates that are happening. That's part of the issues for that, is that, these students go through all these things and they feel that they're isolated in a manner that they can't communicate this at home with their parents, that they end up just feeling that we are caring too much. And some of them see suicide as the best way out, and that is a genuine pressure. I think for me, I just got lucky at some point and I said, oh, let's just, what are we doing here? If I don't want to be here, let me leave now, and I was able to just refocus myself. But it's so hard, and that's why I started this by saying that for me was the biggest mistake, is not knowing, the purpose of why you're there, where this meets in the grand scheme of things.
I think I should bring you here in London. I mean, do you tell your parents about the wasted money, or do you tell them nightlife?
Which one?
Which one goes to the parents and which one remains a secret?
The wasted money, because now results. So I had to, now the results were coming out. So now I was like, I can't lie any further. So now I was like, I need to tell them. Yo, it was terrible. I was sick, literally sick. Because you must remember that also not all of us come from privileged homes, you know, and it's black families. So as Vaughn is saying, like suicide in the varsity was very high. As Mtuli also said, because you're disappointing, you out there to go be an example and say, hey, our child is gone to varsity and you're gonna change the situation at home. So when you're coming back and you're saying you've spent money for school,
Not now.
what now? Where are we supposed to get that money? But why are you playing Londiwe? You know, so it was a disappointment in the face that I could not deal with. I literally got so sick. But eventually they forgave and I was able to finish the degree. I think that's what mattered the most, you know. Yeah.
Praise God. Praise God. Are you struggling to tell your parents about the mistakes you've made? Well, maybe we'll talk about this even more after the break. Please share your story with us. The hashtag is TCG on SID. We really love to hear from you. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back to The Chosen Generation. We're still talking about the mistakes that we made in our first year. And I have my lovely guest still here with me. Maybe I should start with you, Mtuli, in this segment. At what stage do you realize that this thing is not for me? After doing how many courses, where do you decide that, yeah, now I must change and refocus?
Okay, the first year at the college, I went to the nearby college in Tembisa because it was just a walking distance from my grandmother's house. I did commercial subjects. I performed. I got awards. But when I started working, I was a good secretary, but I wanted a degree because all my peers were having their degrees. You know, my first job was at the Department of Education. All the teachers, when they write their forms, their CVs, they've got this brackets, B.admin, others, they've got the honors. And I started making sure that I empower myself. I went to the bursary department. I then started my degree in 1994. Which took me 8 years. But I finally did it because I was working and it was not easy being a single mom. Now I cried for the time that I lost with that one mistake. One night, one round, hardly 15 minutes. It cost me my life.
Okay, too much information. It's okay. It's all right. It's the
real.
truth.
It's practical, yeah.
All right. Vaughn, maybe like who told you? Was it the course or you decided?
So I was at the time, like, you know, I mentioned that I was there with my brother, that we had an aunt of ours, you know, who was in admin at the university. So we'd avoid her, you know. Because every time you go to her now, the first thing she says is, what's your student number again? And she punches it in. And she says, yeah, no, it's tough, you need to. So you'd only go there once a while, you know. After a while, you know, when you're tired of the, you know, you'll come back, say, okay. But for me, you know, I think with time, I had an introspection with myself, you know, to say, and you know, that's one of the beauties of varsity as well, that space, because that's when you also get to understand who you are in yourself, you know. I had to sit down with myself and I was like, you know, firstly, who am I? What am I and what am I doing here? You know, and immediately once I started to understand that, I understood that, okay, this is clearly very important to me, you know, and once I understood that it's important to me, then I started to put in the work, you know, and of which at first I realized that I actually don't even know how to go about being a student here. You know, then I had to just rope in those classmates of mine here and there to say, okay, what have you guys been doing so far? Okay, you guys are meeting wherever, okay. Can I join you guys when you next time meet? But where it started was me firstly sitting down with myself, you know, because there is no parent that's going to sit you down and tell you, hey, Linda, you need to do 1, 2, and 3. If it's not, you know, what you purposely decide that this is what I'm going to do, it's not going to happen. You know, it's not going to happen. So I think for me, that's why, you know, it just came a time where I was like, hey, you know, guy, you know, and it wasn't even a matter of education per se, you know, my academics that were pushing me in that way. You know, it was a matter of me understanding myself as a human being. You know, it's that self-introspection that came.
I think there's a teachable moment here. Maybe Londi, you could share. Maybe there's someone who doesn't know, is not aware that actually this is not me. What was your process that made you realize that, you know what, I need to change direction and follow what I want to do?
So I never changed direction, let me be very honest. But I did my degree, like, what a waste of my time. You know, I could be doing so much. But I think, look, I've been speaking to matriculants all the time. I think because of my experience, I always say that just because you're in university studying that specific thing doesn't mean that's going to be your career. You'll change maybe after second year. You see people from medicine moving to go to English literature. It's you're still discovering yourself. The first phase of discovering yourself literally starts in varsity in college. You know, so it's for me, it was a matter of, okay, look, I might not do this forever, but I need the stability. And then when I'm stable, I know that I'll then venture into the things that I like. But when I was there eventually in third year, I dropped one subject and I took something that I thought would be more aligned to my dream and my purpose. And I think that's what I ended up doing even my honors in, you know, and touching base on it here and there. And I know that in the long term, I'm going to be able to use it. But it's not a, you know, definitely this is it. So go for it, see what you need to do, try finish off what you start. It's always important. It will teach you discipline, you know, but it doesn't mean that's where your career will end. People change careers years after their degree. So, yeah.
So what I hear you saying is that changing degree is not necessarily a failure.
No.
Okay. You know, firstly, before let me just answer that also. You may even drop out of varsity to be academically excluded. That does not necessarily entail a failure.
Yeah.
And this is what I want to come into, is that understanding that space. That's the role of, that's now, you know, you need to do the work, you know, of just trying to understand yourself. But there's a huge role in that process played by God.
Okay.
You know, where He will order your steps. Yes. You know, when God has prepared a path for you, you know, you will flunk out of medicine, you know, flunk out of varsity. And then go somewhere else where God has prepared a place for you. You know, so that's also the important part of understanding your purpose and getting into space of self-reflection. You know, in those spaces, you can now start to work with your relationship with God, because that one is very important. You know, because that's when now you get to see that, you know, I look at my journey. You know, I went to varsity. I said, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I look at the space, which is not too terribly far off, but I look at where I am now and say, why would I want to do that? You know, I actually don't even like that. 1, 2, and 3. You know, but that's God ordering your steps. You know, you just need to take the time. You know, sometimes you just be in His presence. You know, be with Him, and you know, through that, you know, those failures that come here and there, sometimes you'll see those failures for what they truly are, a redirection. You know, yeah.
Maybe Ma'am Tula, I should bring in here. And again, this is another teachable moment. What role did God play in your education journey? Maybe that can encourage people. Sometimes don't even think about God when we look at varsity.
My education journey, you know, starting from the college, the first job that I got, I was headhunted.
Wow.
Because my college had the best typist.
Okay.
And I was referred to go to work at the Department of Education.
Look at
I
God.
was the secretary to the circuit inspectors. And I got the next job in the mayor's office in Sandton. And during that period, in church, when they needed programs, you know, we're using typewriters, there were no computers. I was there. So my administration skills that I achieved at the college helped the church, helped the community, anyone who needed a funeral program. Sis Tuli was there, I was Tuli then. And when I look back, I'm still there, helping the communities with all my administration. If you need anything done, consider it done. I'm born with my admin skills. Hence, I did my honors degree in administration. I specialized. I just touch things, they happen.
Wow.
Now, when I look back, I had to go through that pain.
Yes.
And the 1 year gap made me to be in contact with God because the boyfriend was no longer there.
Yeah.
It was bad. The baby needed food.
Yeah.
I had to queue at the clinic for free milk. Yeah.
Sure.
And I don't wish any of these youngers to go through that. You don't need a baby. You are a teenager. Finish everything that you do. Then when you are matured enough,
Yes.
you can be a mom to this blessing. Not when you are a teenager.
Yeah.
I think on that note, we can go to a break. I think the hashtag there is you can be. Thank you so much, Mantuli, for that. Please share your views with us. The hashtag is TCG on SID. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Chosen Generation. We are still dealing with the mistakes that we made in our first year. And I would like us in this last segment to look at solutions to this issue. How can we, maybe I should start with you, Vaughn. How can we deal with mistakes that we made to avoid all the adverse situations that you spoke about earlier?
I think, me coming in with my problem sort of had its solution. But, for me personally, and I'll talk practically, when I deal with my students, and I think sort of coming back to what I was talking about, God's, redirection and everything, and God having his role. I think I had to go through that, I think I had to go through that importantly, because now as a lecturer, I understand my students better. When I have a student who's going through something, I'll sit them down. I'll sit them down, understanding the full context that, when I was in these shoes, I was quite lost. So I'll talk to them. I'll talk to them about not only, academic stuff. I'll try find out the full context. What's happening? Are you okay? What's the situation at home? Where do you stay now? What is your funding situation like? Because all those things really, they contribute to whatever the student goes through, So I think for me right now, we need that sort of space for students, to for them to, firstly, when they get into that space, to be more aware, more self-aware of why they're there, and Londi will tell you one thing we also used to do in our undergrads, we'd go to these high schools, and talk to students about the different options that they can have, because I felt that when I was in varsity, when I was in high school, all I knew is that you could be a lawyer, you could be a teacher, you can be a doctor, I did not know that there's a whole different world of qualifications and different things that you could do, depending on what you love. So I think one of those things is very important, particularly at high school age, that we inform these kids about, hey, there's this, there's that. You don't always need to go to a traditional university. There's FUT colleges. There's all these routes
I
you
think
can take.
On that, maybe I should bring you here, Londi, where that's very important. How do you help a young person to deal with the mistakes that they've made? What else, other than what Vaughn has said?
Yeah. So I think, as Vaughn mentioned, I think the most important key is preventing.
Yeah, okay.
So obviously that's step number one. We all would be better if we had that guidance and that mentor, or those people who've experienced everything coming through to talk to us and guiding us step by step, But when a mistake has happened, all you need is support, more than anything. And as we spoke about the high suicide rates, and, Situl also mentioned that she once felt like that herself, it's a matter of reassuring that you need to be kind to yourself and understanding the relationship with God is critical, because, you're like, what am I doing here? I was supposed to get acceptance to this. Why am I failing? But it's God's direction. So the minute you know God, you self-aware, you know that you start discovering your purpose, everything will fall into place. But I think everyone deserves a support structure. I would also, for those that have made mistakes, go to the counseling. At Wits, we used to have that counseling, in terms of personal counseling as well as career counseling. So make use of all of those situations. Join the churches there, and where there's mentors, join societies and find a way to pick up yourself. It's not the end. Okay. It's just a redirection that God is making clear for you. And don't be too hard on yourself.
All right. That's succinct. Mamthuli, your advice to the young ones?
My advice is to first accept that you were wrong.
Okay.
Because the current challenge we are having as parents is when you guide a young person. You know that answer? Yes, and accept you are wrong, forgive yourself, and move on. You were on the mat, stand up as a young person, go forward. And don't keep on reminding yourself that, by the way, I've got a baby, my peers are like this. Move on, and I'm telling you, those who left, you'll meet them somewhere. As long as you've got a vision and you write down, this year, this is what you want to achieve. And out of 5, don't write too many goals, write only 5. If you achieve 2, it is an achievement. Move on.
Wow, well, that's really powerful. I think maybe going to the end, we really need to look at the support, the spiritual support that one needs to tap into as a young person. I don't know how it was for you, Vaughn. Do you think that that could be something that young people should look for?
Yeah, if you know, that's one of the best things you could do for yourself, particularly through that journey of discovery. That's the best thing you could do. Seek spiritual support, you know, from those around you, from other students around you, but just from your Lord and Savior yourself, you know, go seek that support, because that will carry you through so much. You know, what that you're going to be experiencing for those 3 or 4 years. You're going to go through a whole world of experiences, you know, and having that support is what literally will carry you through that.
Wow. I think that's the best place to actually end this show. I'd like to thank everyone for coming. Your inputs have done great. I can tell you now, we really thank God for using you to speak in such a fashion. To our viewers at home, you can still continue to talk to us. The hashtag is TCG on SID. Let us know what your story is and what your experience was. Lastly, Solomon says, remember the Lord in the days of your youth. That is so critical. In the days of the youth, that's the time when you should give your life to Him who saves, who sanctifies, and satisfies. We'll see you next week. Thank you for being with us.